Welcome to Chapter 7 slash Episode 7 of Small Talk with Shania. I am so excited for this episode. I think this is going to be a very interesting and fun episode. I can feel it in my bones. We're going to be doing a deep dive into all things book tropes that we love, book tropes that we hate. We're going all over, okay? I asked you guys on Instagram to tell me some of your favorite tropes ever and some of your least liked tropes ever, because I feel like there's a lot of controversy that goes on when it comes to tropes, okay? Me personally, I've discovered a lot of stuff about myself in the past year about tropes that I don't like and tropes that I really gravitate towards. And I feel like there's so many out there. There's so many micro tropes too that it's like hard to keep track of nowadays, especially with like a lot of books being the same and having to make them different. People are adding a lot of micro tropes that like I've never even heard of before. But there are so many that you guys responded, and I'm honestly surprised about so many of them. There were so many that you guys said that you hated that I love so deeply. And then there were some that I really, really like, or some that I don't like that you guys like. And I was like very like caught off guard. So we need to talk about it. We need to dissect it. Book tropes are one of those things that honestly, for me, can make or break a book. If I don't like the trope in a book, I'm probably not going to vibe with it. Even if the characters are amazing, even if the story is just very relatable, and I think that the plot has like a lot of legs to be strong, if the trope is not there and if I'm not vibing with the trope, it's going to be really hard for me to feel connected to the book. So let's talk about a couple that you guys, let's start off positive, okay? We'll start off on a positive note. We'll talk about the ones that you guys really love, okay? There's a lot in here that I think are very similar. There's a lot here that I agree with as well, but let's get into it, okay? Enemies to lovers, for sure. Absolutely 100%. Enemies to lovers is probably one of my favorite book tropes ever. I love when you're reading like 50% of the book and these characters are just at each other's throats. Like they hate each other. They are true enemies. That's another thing with enemies to lovers. They need to actually be enemies. And if they're not enemies, if they don't have that like tension between them where they don't actually like despise each other, it's not enemies to lovers. I need to feel the hatred coming out of them, but I also need to feel that transition to love as well. Okay. I think that's so important. And some of the ones that do really good with enemies to lovers is like Anna Huang books. She does an amazing job at writing characters that like so clearly have like hatred for each other, but so clearly are absolutely infatuated with each other at the same exact time. And like you can feel the tension between the two characters. Like I love that. I also in a fantasy book love when there's enemies to lovers too. Like in the Powerless books by Lauren Roberts, the way that Kai and Peyton like they're like true enemies as well in the sense that like they live two different worlds, so they don't get along in that aspect and they can't like see eye to eye, but it's so clear and obvious that they're obsessed with each other. I love it. I literally love it so much. And that happens a lot in fantasy books too. I feel like enemies to lovers is true. Rivals to lovers is a little bit different. That's like Divine Rivals, the young adult book that's kind of like about the mythical creatures in the middle of war and stuff. That's more rivals to lovers. It's a little bit different, but enemies to lovers, oh, it gets me every single time. Also touch her and you die. Absolutely. Touch her and you die will always be one of the best things that you can put in a book. That is, again, it's like a micro trope. When a character says, when the MMC in particular, when the MMC says, touch her and you die, forget it. The gloves are coming off. Shit is about to go down. This is typically when like the MMC has this epiphany of like, oh shit, I love this woman. She's now going to become my life, and my duty in life is to protect her. And when he says that to whoever her enemy is, it's just, you know, shit's about to go down. It's absolutely amazing. That was another one that was kind of common. Enemies to lovers was definitely common. So much so many other people said that they loved enemies to lovers and that touch her and you die trope. Single dad is another one that I've actually grown to love. The single dad trope gets me like in my feels for sure. I never thought that I would like a single dad trope because I just can't relate to it. So it feels like something that's a little bit more foreign to me. So I really have to connect with also the FMC in the book in order to like fall in love with the MMC who's a single dad. So like examples of that is obviously like Heartless by Elsie Silver. Oh, she does such a good job writing that book. Daddy Cade Eaton, chef's kiss. That is a perfect example of a single dad romance that is done right. I'm trying to think of another one. What was another single dad romance that was really, really good? I honestly haven't read too many of them, but when I do, they like stick out to me. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now, trying to figure out. I'll have to think of another one. Isn't there like a new one that she just wrote that came out? I forget what the name is. Is it is it Wild Side? Is that a single dad romance or is Wild Love? I haven't read them yet, so I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, there is a lot. That one sticks out to me for sure because it's just very much the perfect blend of like single dad wholesomeness, but the way that she writes her spice in there makes it so juicy as well. I absolutely eat it up every single time. Another one that came up for you guys really, really like is Age Gap. I love me an age gap. However, I do not like a reverse age gap. Regular age gap, good. Reverse age gap, I don't want it. Now, I love an age. There was this kind of goes into ones that people don't like either because a lot of people did not like the age gap trope, and I understand why. It depends on the actual age gap. If it's too big, I can't see past it. But if it's like 10 years, fine. 15 years, fine. Where it gets a little bit more taboo is when it's like boyfriend's dad age gap. Oh, that's my favorite. I will eat up a ex-boyfriend's dad age gap trope every single time. When it's an ex-boyfriend's dad age gap, there's something about it that makes it so wrong that it's so right at the same time. Praise by Sarah Kate. That I think that was honestly my first book that I ever read that was like a big age gap where she was dating her ex-boyfriend's dad. That was like my first intro into that trope, and I don't know why, but I absolutely fell like head over heels in love with that whole concept. Obviously not in real life, but in books when it's a fictional relationship. It's just something about it is so yummy and delicious. Also, Birthday Girl, that one caught me off guard as well. I did not think I was going to love that one as much, but whew, an age gap that will get me every single time. If it's too much, like Sarah Kay has another book that's what is it? Highest Bidder. I started reading that book. I kind of took a break from it because the age gap is so big. It is. I don't even remember what it was, but she's like in her 20s and this guy's maybe in like his 60s or something. So that was a little bit much for me. I do draw the line, but I love an age gap romance, especially like I said, if it's like a 10-year or 12-year, that's kind of like the sweet spot. And as long as it's obviously legal, as long as everyone is of age. Um, Ex-boyfriend's dad. Yep. Just talked about that one. I love that in an age gap. Billionaire. Oh, love a billionaire romance. Megan Quinn always writes a really good billionaire. I also love when there's like a dark romance and he's a billionaire, but also has this like morally gray side to him as well. Those are always really yummy. Um, Touch Her and You Die. See, yep, that one came up again. Friends to Lovers. I love Friends to Lovers. Friends to Lovers is probably like my bread and butter. I love the concept of two characters where you kind of read about them when they were children or when they were in school together or what have you, when they became friends. And you not only see them falling in love with each other like as adults, but you see their entire journey. And when it makes you feel nostalgia, kind of like when you were in school or like when you were growing up and like crushing on people and like we're learning how to love and stuff. Like that's why I love Friends to Lovers so much, because it's so relatable for so many people. And I think that it's just the most romantic trope ever. You can't get more romantic than a Friends to Lovers trope. It's truly like the perfect fairy tale trope. I absolutely love it. Love in Other Words, that is my absolute favorite book, probably of all time. And that is a perfect example of a Friends to Lovers. It gets me every single time. Hockey players, yes. The Vancouver Agitator, the Vancouver Agitators series, which is by Megan Quinn. That's a hockey romance series. There are like 5 or 6 books in that one. Those are always great. I love hockey. I'm still getting into sports romance. So it's another one said here. Someone else said sports romance. I'm still getting into sports romances, but I think that I found a lot of good options. Especially for hockey, I really enjoyed that one. The Problem with Players by Brittany Cherry is really good too. That's a baseball romance. So trying to get out there and not just read, like hockey. I also really enjoy what is that one called? The All Saints series by LJ Shen. That's kind of like a football one. What was another football one? Say You Swear. That's kind of like a football romance. It's not really like football romance, but I guess it's kind of like that. Um Also have, let's see, anything. This one's funny. Anything involving cowboys. A cowboy romance. Yeehaw, partner. Okay. I have fallen in love with a cowboy romance thanks to Miss Elsie Silver. Okay. I'm on my last book for the Chestnut Spring series. And what is that? Is it Hopeless? No, Reckless. What is it? Hold on. I got to look now. Hopeless. I was right. Okay. What was the other one? Heartless that I was talking about earlier? Okay. Yeah. Hopeless. I'm on that book right now. And I was just making a video actually for TikTok saying I don't know which brother I love more or which MMC I love more in the Chestnut Spring series. It is so incredibly difficult to like choose between these cowboys. And the mouth on these cowboys is just so it'll make you melt. And I also have Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. I want to read that one because I've heard it's so good. Also have the is it the Gold Rush Ranch series by Elsie Silver. I have so many Elsie Silver books and I'm still in the Chestnut Spring series. So I need to get more into cowboys, but I'm with you. Yeehaw, brother. Okay. I will what is the saying? Save a horse, ride a cowboy all day. Save a horse, ride a cowboy all day. What do we have? Fake dating. Did we talk about fake dating already? I don't think that we did. Fake dating, let me tell you about something about this. Fake dating can go so right, but it can also go so wrong at the same time. If fake dating is not done right, then I fear that the whole plot is gone. Okay. Fake dating is one of those you have to like, I think, tread lightly on because it's so overdone and people do it over and over and over again. And almost every book that you pick up nowadays, it's like a romance book, is something to do with fake dating. Not all of them, obviously. That's exaggerating, but so many are. And I feel like they get very, very repetitive. So, in order for a book to be a fake dating trope and to stand out, it has to have an element about it that makes you feel like it's nothing like you're going to pick up at the store. It has to really be different. The characters have to stand out. The plot has to stand out. And the fake dating cannot just live on its own. There has to be other elements to make it good because I fear that it is overdone, okay? It is very overdone and it can go south real quick. But needless to say, I eat it up every time. I really do. I love a fake dating trope. And I think that some other people who do fake dating really well, again, Anna Huang, Megan Quinn, those are like my two favorite authors. I love them. And they do a really, really good job of that. Um, oh gosh, there's so many other ones. Magnolia Parks has a little bit of like a fake dating thing into it as well, which I really, really like. Um, Happy Place is not fake dating, but they do have to pretend that they're kind of still in a relationship. So that was really interesting as well. What else is there? Oh gosh, there's so many good fake dating books. What is the one I just read? Oh my god, I'm blanking. I just read a book that was fake dating or like had something to do with it. I forget what it is, but the point is that there are so many fake dating books. So be original is what I'm saying. It's hard to be original with that kind of trope, but I think it's really important to make sure you do it justice, essentially. Another one that's really, really overdone is Grumpy Sunshine. Now, I was just talking to my best friend too. She was saying Grumpy Sunshine has actually gone down on her list for tropes. And I would have to agree. I like a Grumpy Sunshine when it's like small town romance vibes, but this is another one that is either done so good or it's done so bad. Because let me tell you, I read, what was the book that I read? Things We Never Got Over. This is a classic Grumpy Sunshine, okay? He's incredibly grumpy. His name is Knox. She is overly sunshine. And I mean, like, she's not just sunshine, she is like the sun. She is literally, her character comes out ablazing with like daisies on her dress or something. And it's very obvious that she is a sunshine character and he is the grumpy. And she is there to lighten his life. Okay. I think that book is a good example of why I do not like the grumpy sunshine trope so much, because it can be very, very cheesy, especially in a rom com. That's another one that's just so overdone. And you can make a grumpy sunshine incredibly cheesy with like one singular line or one line that is like overly descriptive of the people. And I also don't like when the MMC is so grumpy that he's just like freaking rude and he's just like clearly not a good human. Like there's a difference between being a grump and being just like a shit person. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of weird. I don't love when he's just like hates the world, because it's just like you're a lost cause. It's not as relatable. So I get that with Grumpy Sunshine for sure. Enemies to lovers, enemies to lovers, enemies to lovers. Touch her and you die. Yep, I get it. Enemies to lovers again. He falls first. Love he falls first. So many books that I read are ones where he falls first, but she fell harder, or vice versa. But something about when the MMC falls for the character and you can tell you're reading a moment and you're like, oh, this is the moment that he fell head over heels for this woman. Um, Also, second chance romance. Oh, second chance is always a really interesting one because sometimes the way that they like write the second chance, the reasoning on why there needs to be a second chance. I've read, cheating tropes, which I don't love that. Second chance because maybe they just had to move and they've gotten disconnected and now they're older. Love in Other Words is kind of like a second chance romance. It's also Friends to Lovers as well, but it's also second chance. There's a lot of different books that have that trope, and I think it's a really special one. Happy Place is another one that is second chance as well. Magnolia Parks is kind of a second chance. Um, there's just a lot that goes into that trope, and I think it's a deeper subject and a deeper topic for people. And I don't think it's for everyone, as long as the reasoning for them to be giving the second chance is valid. I'll leave it at that. It needs to have a good reason on why it's a second chance, but usually it's a really good one. Golden Retriever MMC. I love a Golden Retriever MMC. Some of my favorite Golden Retriever MMCs, just to note, are from Out on a Limb, Bo. He is like the epitome of a Golden Retriever man. He is the kindest soul. Archer from Archer's Voice. Oh, Archer Hale is like the number one book boyfriend, and he is such a golden retriever. It is so cute when you're reading about him and Bree. Noah Riley from Say You Swear, another golden retriever vibes. Love him so, so much. I just love a golden retriever man. My husband's also a golden retriever man. So I have a soft spot for them for sure. Oh my gosh, the one bed trope. This is one that is a staple, especially in like a fantasy book or like, again, an enemies to lovers or something. Oh, when a book has the one bed trope. But the thing is that when it's a one bed trope, they have to actually sleep in the same bed, because there's been way too many times where there's foolery that happens and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. This inn only has one bed available or one room available and there's only one bed in there." And then he's like, "It's okay. I'm a gentleman and I will sleep on the floor and you get the bed." No. No, sir. We don't want you to be a gentleman, okay? We want you to sleep in the same bed as her, and we want you to tear each other's clothes off and break this tension already. Otherwise, it's not a one bed trope. Why are you going to play with my emotions like that? Okay. I digress. I feel very strongly about the one bed trope. I love it, but like do it right. You know what I mean? We're almost done. We only have a couple left on the ones that we love, and then we're going to get into the ones that we hate. You hate. Some of them I hate, but not all of them. Forced proximity. Oh, I love forced proximity. This is another one that's just like really adds to the tension. There's literally a book called Forced Proximity by Tate James. I love that book, and it's literally the epitome of forced proximity because she's in the same house, living in the same house as like five other men. Forced proximity. That's why it's the name. Marriage of convenience. Love a marriage of convenience, or like a arranged marriage of some sort. Forbidden love. Love it. And then enemies to lovers. Again, that's pretty much all the ones you guys said. Clearly, you guys love enemies to lovers. Clearly, you really, really love the touch her and you die. And you also like a grumpy sunshine. And what was the other one? Oh, friends to lovers. That one came up a lot as well. Okay. Moving on to ones that you guys said that you did not like, okay? There's definitely a little bit of a divide here, I feel like, for some people. Because a lot of other people said that they do not like the friends to lovers, say that they don't hate it, but it's very predictable, which is valid. I mean, a lot of romance books are predictable these days. Friends to lovers is also pretty predictable. But I think that's like part of the fun. It's like you know it's coming, but you got to go on the journey to get there. Any slow burns, someone says. Slow burns, I don't okay, cuz there was okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. Someone said any slow burns. However, someone also said insta love, that they don't like insta love. And I feel like I don't like the instant love attraction, but I also don't like a slow burn. I like a really good medium between the two. I feel like I don't want to wait too long for a slow burn where I'm just like, all right, fuck already. Or if I'm like, okay, let's move things along. Like, when are we getting to the good stuff? When are you guys going to actually confess your love for each other? But it's also, I don't like when it's just like that immediate attraction either, because typically there's like just a lot, it's not that easy, you know, so it's not relatable. So I feel like there needs to be a good medium between those two. Someone said love triangle. We don't love a love triangle. I love a love triangle. Love triangles are one of my favorite things to read about. I don't know why, I just live for the drama. Again, I know I keep mentioning Say You Swear, but that's such a good one. That's a love triangle. Again, Magnolia Parks. That's not, it's kind of a love triangle ish. Meh. It kind of has one in a way. Um, oh my gosh, there's so many good love triangle plots out there. That trope is like one of my favorites. The fact that people don't like, I get it. I totally get why you wouldn't, because it's like you only want to focus on one person. Oh, what is it? How Does It Feel by Janine O'Reilly? That whole series is a love triangle. That's a really good one. I love I love those books, and that has a really good love triangle in it as well. What else? Super dark romance. I get that. Once upon a time, I used to be a dark romance girly. I am no longer a romance girly though. I am no longer a dark romance girly. I feel like I can't handle it. It's really hard for me to pick up a dark romance and feel connected to it. And it's really hard for me to pick up a dark romance and not be triggered by it or something. Not that I have a lot of triggers like for myself. It's just sometimes things are really hard to read about. Um, and I don't know. Sometimes they're just really oversaturated with like smut too. So super dark. Yeah, I get that. Fantasy. Fantasy is a genre. It's not a trope. Although I understand where you're coming from. You probably just don't like fantasy books, is what you're saying. Age gap, ex boyfriends, dad, which makes sense because those typically go together. Someone said they don't like hockey or single dad. That's crazy. I get why people don't like hockey though, because sports romances are not for everyone. Single dad romances are not for everyone. I know some people don't like that aspect of like having a kid involved. So that makes sense. Too big of an age gap, 12 plus years. I think it depends on the dynamic and how complex it is. I live for an age gap though. Okay. This is where I won't stand for the slander. Okay. The pregnancy trope. How do we feel about the pregnancy trope? Personally, I love the pregnancy trope. Okay. The pregnancy trope to me is like such, okay. I'm trying to think of this as a way for like you guys not to think I'm crazy. The pregnancy trope to me is like the ultimate conflict in a romance book. It doesn't get much more complicated than a freaking pregnancy, okay? The stakes are so high. There is so much on the line. There's so much to lose, so much to gain. The characters, depending on how, their dynamic is, it's either somewhat of like a one night stand. And maybe the father of the child doesn't actually know that she's pregnant or doesn't know that she has a child. There's so much drama involved. Do you guys not like the pregnancy trope because it involves a kid and like a child? Is that why the pregnancy trope gets such a bad rep? I truly don't understand why people don't like it. I can understand I like pregnancy is more of like a sensitive topic, I guess. I don't know why I love it so much. There's so many books that have done it right for me. I don't think that I've read a book that has done the pregnancy trope bad. So I feel like I've had only good experiences with it. So maybe that's why. I really don't know, but I want to know what your guys' beef is with it. I do. Please let me know why you don't like it because it just doesn't make sense to me. I love it. I'm going to keep advocating for the pregnancy trope. More pregnancy tropes in books. Please. Cheating trope and miscommunication. Absolutely 100%. The cheating trope is just not for me. I've read a couple books that have the cheating trope in it and I just don't like it. I just read what was it called? Homewrecker by Sarah Kate, which is the second book that comes right after Antihero in the Good Brothers series, I think. And it is literally one big cheating trope where like the husband and the wife both cheat on each other with the same guy, but they're like strangely okay with it because they're both in love with the guy. And so it's like then they become this like throuple, but it's weird because then they bring up the cheating a lot. And I didn't like it. I did not like that. I don't condone cheating. And so that to me is just it doesn't make me like the characters, to be honest. It makes me not like the characters. And it makes me feel a little bit more like removed from the story, I guess. Miscommunication, I love miscommunication because I feel like there's literally no plot to books if there's not any type of miscommunication, to be honest. Um, so I understand why it's very, very frustrating. It's a very frustrating trope because there's like that sense of why won't you guys just talk to each other like normal adults, you know? Like how are you guys at the big age that you are? How can you not communicate like adults? What is the issue? I get that. It makes me very frustrated when I have to read about it. But the beautiful thing about a miscommunication trope is that there is so much to be resolved at the end. And it's so much drama and I live for the drama. So I like it. Let's see. Someone says, "Yep, they're tired of the instant attraction, third act breakups." Yeah, most books these days have a third act breakup, so I'm not it doesn't really make me too mad. I don't really it's I'll take it or leave it. I don't really care. A third act breakup, they're still gonna end up together unless they really don't end up together. That's a trope I don't like is when they, like, truly don't end up together. Um, yeah, a lot of books have the third act breakup nowadays. Someone says, I'm learning I can't really do age gap romance if it's an insane gap. Immediately no. Cheating, pregnancy with a few exceptions. Why choose? Someone said they don't like a why choose romance. I love why choose romances actually. When they're done right, Tate James writes some of my favorite why choose romances. The Madison Kate series, the Hades series is really great as well. Um, Sarah Kate obviously writes some really, really good ones. Penelope Douglas wrote Credence. That's not technically a why choose, but it kind of gives off those vibes ish. There's a lot of great why choose books for sure. I have Losers on my docket to read. I read the first one, which is The Dare, and that one was really good. I listened to it on audiobook and I have Losers. It's just really long, so I've kind of been putting it off for a little while. That's another Why Choose one that I think is going to be really, really good. Who else has written? Sadie Kincaid also writes some Why Choose as well. So yeah, there's definitely some options for sure. I think that the Why Choose is not everyone's cup of tea. It's very taboo, but I love it. I eat it up every time. Again, pregnancy, fake dating, love triangles, friends to lovers. Friends to lovers. Not liking friends to lovers is crazy. I respect it though. Pregnancy, cheating, love triangles are why choose. So clearly there's a little bit of a pattern here as well. There was actually more responses for what tropes you guys love versus what tropes you guys hate. So this was definitely very interesting and very eye-opening for seeing that what you guys like. Um, for the most part, I agree with you guys on a lot of them. There are some that I feel differently about, like the pregnancy trope, like I said. I want to talk about one of my least favorite book tropes ever. Literally ever. This goes for books, movies, any story. I don't care what it is. This trope makes my blood boil in any type of book that I read it in. And there's only maybe in the past like 3 years that I've been reading. I can't even that I've picked up reading again. Maybe 3 books that I've read that have this trope. And one of them is one of my favorite books of all time. So that just goes to show just because it has a trope that I don't like doesn't mean I'm not going to like the book. But that trope is the memory loss trope. I can't stand the memory loss trope. You're going to sit here and tell me that I just spent all this time reading about these people's love story or about what these people have done, all for them to forget it all? What? No. I feel bamboozled when that trope happens. Truly feel bamboozled. And it makes me furious because I feel like we got to start all the way at square one. And there's so many different elements that go to it. And it's never an easy process to get back to where they were. And it typically happens like right in the middle of the book. So you have a whole other half to read that has to fix the issue. And I feel sometimes, depending on the book, there was one book that I read in particular that has this. I'm not going to spoil it because it's a really big spoiler at the end. But there's one book that I read and I was just like, I feel like that was a cop out. Like, I feel like a lot of people use this trope as kind of an easy way out to like cause conflict when there could have been more in depth conflict. But instead, they just kind of slap on a memory loss trope onto it and say, yeah, that's what it's going to be. So, in my eyes, it can be kind of lazy. And then there's, like I said, there's just so many like damage control things to do. And it just makes me feel like, really? Memory loss? Okay. All right. Well, whatever. You couldn't have thought of something a little bit more creative, you know? It's just I don't like it. The memory loss one just does not. It doesn't vibe. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but the reverse age gap trope, I think I mentioned it that I just don't like when the woman is older than the MMC. I love when the MMC is older than the FMC. I don't necessarily know why, but last year I read what was it? That one book by I didn't even really like it that much, so that's why. Oh wait, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Yeah, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. And that is a reverse age gap trope where she is older than him. And the whole book just kind of gave me the ick, and it was like her trying to like justify their relationship, and she's like, "Well, I'm so much older and I have my life together, and like he has his life more put together than I do, and I'm older than him and I should have, more decisions and I should be more stable, but he's more stable than I am." And she was like relying on her parents the whole entire time to like make her life decisions and stuff, and it just didn't sit right with me, and it feels almost like mommy issues, I guess you could say. Not that like the other type of age gap where he's older doesn't give daddy issues. I guess it kind of does, but that doesn't make me feel as uncomfortable as like the mommy issues. I don't know. To each their own, okay? The reverse age gap just is not for me personally. I just don't love it. I also am not like a huge fan of when there's like Instagram famous people or like influencers in books. When I read Lights Out by Navessa Allen, that was like the number one ick that I had throughout the entire book, was that he literally what he did was go on TikTok and make thirst trap videos. I couldn't deal with that. That was so ugh, I just get cringy every time I think about it. That is just when they have to add that into a book, it just immediately makes me not related to the character and not makes me connected to the characters at all. It gives me the ick for sure, for sure. I also don't love when the MMC, I think I noted mentioned this earlier too. I don't love when the MMC is just so overly mean to the FMC where it doesn't even seem like he likes her. I don't really know what that trope is called, but I guess like just ultra grumpy, like too grumpy, if you know what I mean. And one that I read was Vicious by LJ Shen. That whole book, I was reading it and I was like, do you even like her as a human being? Because you don't even seem to like her, like to even talk to her. You're just a shit person to her. You're so rude. So like there's so many elements that go into that. But yeah, that's not my favorite. I don't like when he's too grumpy. I do love a brother's best friend trope. I didn't see anyone say brother's best friend in any of those submissions that you guys gave me. I didn't see anyone say brother's best friend, and I love that trope so much. Either brother's best friend or like a best friend's brother or something like that. Oh, those are so good. I don't know why I love those so much, but there's again a lot of tension there, and like it's kind of goes with the forbidden love almost as well. I really, really enjoy that. Small town romances get me every single time. Friends to lovers, fated mates. Ugh, that always gets me too. Fated mates is just like a classic one. One that I'm still trying to get like wrap my head around is like step siblings. It's not my favorite for obvious reasons. I don't think I've ever read a book that has that I've like absolutely loved. I just read My Fault by Mercedes Ron. That book was good, but at the end of the day, I kept thinking, I'm like, you guys are step siblings. I don't know how I feel about this. And then Eyes on Me by Sarah Kate, loved that book. The overall plot was really good and juicy. But then at the end of the day, I was like, but you're step siblings. Like, you're not blood related. But I don't know. Oh, but then Credence. I know people love to hate this book. Step siblings, step family, not related. Why did I love every second of it, but also hate a lot of it too? I have a love hate relationship with that book. It's really weird. I also don't love when like both of them are serial killers. Um, like in Butcher and Blackbird, like I liked that book to an extent. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was new. I thought it was fun and it was exciting and it was very unique, but overall, I didn't love the fact that they were like both serial killers. It was kind of weird to me. I don't know. I just couldn't really get with it. I couldn't understand that whole like trope, I guess. It was a little strange for me. Um, yeah, that's all I can think of right now. There's so many other ones that come to mind. I'll have to do another episode talking about more and have to get more input from you guys, but there is definitely so many tropes out there that we know and love, or that we know and don't really love and that we might hate. At the end of the day, I think that tropes can make or break a book at the end of the day. I'm probably like, if I know that a book is going to have a reverse age gap, I'm probably not going to want to read it. I'm going to be more inclined to skip it. Not to say that I wouldn't still give it a try or that I still wouldn't recommend it, but I think that it's important to know what you like so that you can avoid reading a book that like you're going to go into and be like, "Oh, I hate reading about this," you know? I just think it's really important. But yeah, I think that this was really insightful. Thank you guys so much for giving me all of your feedback and telling me what tropes you guys liked and what tropes you guys didn't like. We'll definitely have to dive deeper into this in a future episode for sure, because there is just so much more conversation to be had about this. In the meantime, I'm going to make a list, a running list on my notes app about some more books that I can kind of think about and have in the back of my head for next time. So I'll be compiling a list. I want you guys to compile yours as well. So we're gonna put a bookmark in today's chapter, and I will see you guys in the next chapter.